welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Yeah, we here. Yeah, this is the Will Is Podcast. Once again. How y'all doing this evening? On this particular day. I bet y'all asking me one thing. First of all, how y'all doing, man? I don't ever want to be rude. We post Easter, Esther. We post Easter, Esther. We sure are. Let me button up. I was gonna go loose, but I want to button up tonight. I wanna still carry on the processes of the betterment of ourselves and the alleviation of stress, foolishness. We're coming of a new age. We're just trying to get prepared. You understand? We got solar flares. You know what I'm saying? Uh, my homeboy Lando Clarice Norris, y'all. Man, you ain't got no homeboy from Star Wars. Actually, I do. Been knowing that cat a long time. Did serves together Marine Corps. Yeah, one of my best friends. Still, we communicate to this day. We've known each other since we was like 18 years old. You know, one of my first duty stations and everything. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, one of my good partners, man. But you was talking about solar flares and what the, and what that could possibly do to the grid, uh, satellites, animals. Uh, you know, there's a lot of damage that can be done if something of that type of, magnitude will happen. It happened in the 1800s. And we got so much going on right now, you got Trump firing people, you got Doge, you got revelations. I'm saying this because he called me when he caught me off guard a little bit. It was, I was like, I was a little staggered, but I was like, wait, bro. Understand, the earth moves in cycles. And you don't realize this because you have never been told these things. Yeah, but yeah, so you've been told them. But by who? Liars. See, when you go to the schools of Harvard, Yale, MIT, all of these, Big Ten, Penn, UPenn. You got a lot of schools that been around in America that a lot of bones are buried at those schools. Who built them? Where did they get that Moorish architecture from? Where did they get that ideological mindset from? Even when it comes to Ivy, I'm gonna hang there. Ivy League. Well, Ivy just over all Ivy does is cover the bricks. You can build them. You just you hide behind, or are you in plain sight? See, that's a very big interconnection, interceptional type of concept. If they tell you America was a new world, why is this book by Graham Hancock called America Before? The key to Earth's lost civilizations. I show you a great many books concerning me as an Aboriginal American that has his whole story that exists here. But some people like to act like those stories aren't real. So in part 5 of this book, it tells you stuff just keeps on getting older. The mystery of the primeval mounds. Take a look. Dangling in your face. There you go. Now, the reason why I show you so much commentary is because you have to know this has been a talk of discussion for quite some time. Okay. Check it out. Okay. So above the Great Pyramid of Egypt with the Pyramid of Khafre to its left, a Khafre to its left, both perfectly oriented to the cardinal direction. Photo, Samnit, Faha. Below, the Amazonian earthwork site of Fazenda, Parana, with the principal square also perfectly oriented to the cardinal direction. Photo. Okay. Excuse me. Above, Fazenda Atlantica, the principal geoglyph formed in a square measured 250 meters along each side. It's oriented northeast or southeast, and a line that makes it a candidate for alignment in the settling sun on the June solstice and the rising sun on the December solstice. As yet, no archaeoastronomical survey has been carried out on an Amazonian geoglyphs. Below, the Amazonian geoglyphs frequently combine two or more geometrical forms. Here, in Fazanda, Sepul, uh, uh, Sepul, a square inscribed within an octagon and rounded corners. Photograph Martini Pavazzini. 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 So what I'm explaining to you is the markers, and I mean we can go on, but what this book is completely alluding to is the fact that the Earth is a celestial body and is all connected, just like we are. So that one book describes Earth as a memory because the Earth has a memory. We have just as much to do with the planet, just as much as the planet feeds us. So if you think about the concepts, and even in Ecclesiastes in the Bible, it says, as above, so below. So if as above, so below, you think you can really get out of your own way if you don't admit the fact that you do faulty things. Look at the title of the show, The Pope and Hope Show. So, but what if the whole construct of having a governing body, global governing body, global church, you can subscribe or not, every single religion or global religious construct, you have to subscribe. See? I showed you four. The world's 16 crucified saviors. Yeah. We're gonna get into a little deeper with this one right here, okay? Because you gotta understand something. You gotta. This book tells you, globally how, again, the world goes through cycles. So, in a lot of civilizations, they subscribe saviors or they rewrite the saviors of the past that they tried to reconstruct and deconstruct and reconstruct and deconstruct and deconstruct and reconstruct in order for them to have favor of the people. Because at those times, put yourself in those categorical times, a lot of people could not read. So when you had ecumenical councils and things of that nature, like the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, where you had 318 bishops got together, guess what? Um, we need a savior. Serapis Christos was a good idea. And also, that was from the Ptolemaic period of the Greeks. Okay. So they had to really combine characteristics that also the primordial characteristics or the origin of the characteristics that they also implemented into this entity was from Heru. All over the world have praised Isis and Horus, and they had to figure out how are we gonna fix this one? How are we gonna fix the Horus, the origin story from the Americas? How are we gonna fix that? That also, when Africa was colonized from the West, the old world, how are we gonna implement? How are we gonna fix this? Well, we got to erase America and give it all to Africa. Turn it in reverse. Why do you think Dr. Nana Bene Dakwa wrote the book, The Africans Who Wrote the Bible? Christianity, Africans who wrote the Bible. Yes, if you look at Ethiopia, Eritrea, well, that's your origins. Yeah. Also, it was globally on the continent, the biggest continent on the planet. The biggest continent on the planet. So what do they say? They would tell you that the Akan people, the Bantu speaking people, not saying they literally keeping everything as if Africa wasn't discovered by the Americas, or they love to say vice versa because that's how they keep the narrative going. When there are archaeological, factual equations, not just equations, factual artifacts that are here that is far older than any construct in Africa. How do you mix your stories up? First of all, you want to say, oh, well, we're not going to deny that, you know, people melanated are global. There's no denying that. You just got to get your eyes and your mind off of what the fictitious story you was told about the migrations and the time periods of migrations and start focusing on what if you were already where you were, period. What if you didn't migrate from anywhere? What if there are no records of your migrations because you were already there and when the Caucasians saw you, that's when they found you or had records of you? Or when they discovered records of you and they painted these timetables starting in the 16, 17, 1800s. Took a while to get. You got a 500-year head start, so of course you would want to cover your tracks But by the time you started covering your tracks, the cracks started falling in on the backside. So you can't do a good job. The reason why you couldn't do a good job of trying to think you can cover your tracks is because lies have no roots. You understand? Lies have no roots. So you have to have a constructed governing body, meaning I'm not picking on no kinds of people because globally, the globe was capitulant of what happened to the indigenous Americans. Okay? So, in order to control, to the merchants, the masters, maritime. All this is about maritime. Maritime. Who controls the ships? Who controls the waters? Who controls the relationships? Who controls the economics globally? So that's what all of this has been about. Okay? World's 16 Crucified Saviors by Kersey Graves. You understand? World's crucified saviors, meaning throughout the times they needed a savior, so they kept on with how this began in the first place. That's where you get Heru from. Hmm. How do you keep family fighting? Always give them something to fight about. That's how you keep them fighting. You can give proof and show beyond proof all day, and all they want to well explain this I'm calm down. If you imagine yourself as a child and you were learning something from the first time, which is how we should be learning at all times. It's just when things don't align up or there is a correlation or a relationship to something that's where, let's just say, if you understand where I'm going, that's how the indigenous fell victim. Understanding relatable stories and putting someone else's narrative and story above what you know to be specifically your own. Now, you want to school someone about your story, like I know my story. You're tuning in to a subscription as you would be as a Catholic, as a Protestant, as a Christian. But this is not a cult. This is an experience. So are so is everything. You have your free will to do as you please. Let me explain. Now, this book by Aldous Huxley, Eyeless in Gaza. Let me tell you when this book was written by Aldous Huxley. Okay? This is a very fragile book. This is 1936. Eyeless in Gaza. Need I say more, people? We're still dealing with these 94, 95-year-old conflicts. So if we're dealing with conflicts that are 100 years old, are we even interested in resolving anything for world peace? Do we keep perpetuating things and never learning from history? Listen to me. Chapter 1, August 30th, 1933. The snapshot had become almost dim as memories. The young woman who had stood in the garden at the turn of the century was like a ghost at Cook Crow. His mother, Anthony Bevis, recognized. A year or two, perhaps only a month or two before she died, but fashioned as he peered at the Browns' phantom fashion is a trophy. This is a old book. So the Brown Phantom fashion is a top Priya art. Those swan-like loins, that long slathing cascade of bosom, without any apparent relation to the naked body beneath. All of that hair, like a ornament, deformity on the skull, oddly hideous, repellent, it seems, in 1933. And yet, if he shut his eyes, as he could not resist doing, He could see his mother languidly beautiful on her chaise lounge, or agile playing tennis, or swooping like a bird across the ice of the fair of winter. It was the same with the snapshots of Mary Aberlily, taken 10 years later. Taken 10 years later. The skirt was as long as ever, as within the narrower bell of drapery, women still glid footless as though on casters. The breast, it was true, had been pushed up a bit, the redundant posture pulled in and pulled up, but in the general shape of clothed the body, it was still strangely improbable. A crab shell and a whalebone, and this huge plum hat of 1911 was simply a French funeral of the first class. How could any man in his sense have been attracted by so profoundly anti anthro disordic an appearance, and yet, in spite of a snapshot, he could remember her as the very embodiment of desirability. At the sight of that feathered crab on a wheel, his hasty heart beating fast, his breath had become oppressed. 20 years, 30 years after the event, the snapshot revealed only one remote and unfamiliar, only one thing remotely and unfamiliar. But the unfamiliar dismay, automatism, is always the absurd in which he remembered, the contrary of the emotions that felt when the unfamiliar and still the unfamiliar, when the absurd being taken for granted had nothing absurd about it. The dramas of memories are always Hamlet in modern dress. How beautiful his mother had been, beautiful under the convoluted wings of hair and in the spirit of the jutting posture, the long standard of bosom. And Mary, how maddeningly in the long standard of bosom. I'm repeating that, my apologies. Even in a carapace, even beneath funeral plums, and in his fawn colored covered coat and scarlet tampo shatter as bubbles, and in grass green velveteen and ruffles at school, in his Norfolk suit with the knickerbockers and ended below in the knees of the two tight tubs of box clothes, in his scattered, in his starch collar and his bowler, if it were Sunday, in his red and black school cap of the days. He too, in his own memory, was always modern dress, never absurd little figure, and the snapshot revealed. So what this book is really talking about is that just the dismemberment and just not giving a damn about how they just took, colonized, and not even cared in the well dressed people of the town, and they it was a funeral, unjustly, undone. The memories, the unfolding of those type of things. We had popes. These things were justified. Huxley wrote plenty of books about the devils of London. This book has, oh man, I don't want to read a lot of this. I probably won't read any of it, but I'm telling you, look this book up. The Devils of Loudun, London, Adolf Huxley, again, another pioneer of sheer thought, intellectual capabilities of how he saw even then these autocrats, these the minds of the height of white supremacy of Stalin and the all of these different elements, and then we go into the etymology of how things were. Always keep you a book like this in your house, the origins of American English and words. I'm telling you, this book is extremely adept to finding how they change words. If you ever want to find out what words really mean, let's have a discussion. Let's always get through this because this will tell you who the Pope and why they create hope. Who the Pope is, by the way. I've talked about this book before. I've shown you in the closet of the Vatican, and okay, and this is in the words of Pope Francis here, by the way. Let me show you. What did he say? What did he say? Behind rigidity, there's always something hidden. In many cases, a double life. No one can claim to really understand the Catholic Church today until they have read this book. It reveals a truth that is extraordinary and disturbing. Pope Francis. So they, I want to say the reason why this show is appropriate because Pope Francis would have wanted people to put this book out here. The hypocrisy in governments, the hypocrisy of the world, the hypocrisy of morals and ethics, and he, you know, was, some people say, one of the most pivotal popes, people of the, a pope of the people. And, with the type of comments that he have made and the type of pivotal uh, ways he tried to push the mental mind concept of his flock forward. Remember, I'm not a subscriber to the Catholic Church. I have no um, quorums or ties. Quorums maybe, but ties no. But we'll get to that in a respectful slash factual slash explaining how we will address the situation and come up with solutions as to why you shouldn't um, ever be in the mindset of another because that I feel following is the deconstruction of your divine being personally. You can't follow people. You have to build yourself beyond on your own accord. So I think a lot of people have experienced a great deal. I mean, this book really, when I do understand this, is about victimization, coercion, um, wanting to be in a position of power, to belong politically, thinking that you can walk into certain vessels of life and maintain who you are, and because they think and know, they think and know when you have a vessel that is willing to walk into these places of power, most people may go in with an ideology of, I'm going to do good. I just got to get through this next test. Those tests, most of the time, are not organic, they're man made. See? See? Man made. Man made. Oh boy. Lloyd Graham studies and claims his uncovering these deceptions in the midst that he helped everyone acquire sufficient enlightenment and knowledge to discover what is false. Mr. Graham believes that it's time for scriptural tyranny was broken so that we may devote our time to man instead of God, and to civilizing ourselves instead of saving our souls that were never lost. As I said, I'm just saying, you got, take your pick. Okay. They may have a lot more to do with each other than not. Hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. So we've seen 16 crucified saviors. We've seen the deceptions. We've seen what the Catholic Church has overlaid the world with the whole "you be the judge." But let's talk about these ancient deities: Sebi, Egypt; Sarusa, Hindu, India. Oh, y'all don't want me to say these names over there, huh? Oh, give them power. Okay. Checkmate. Yeah, I get you. I can do you like that. I have the information. Okay. Hmm. Look at y'all. You better be careful. Oh, y'all so boy. I tell you. Hmm. But you ain't wrong. Some of these names I would never say because I'm not a fool. Hmm. Let me put this down. I just want to show you. So let me explain. The most comprehensive reference ever compiled on ancient deities from every tradition. So they think, but it's I tell you one thing, record keeping is good, and this book is it's like that. Yeah, it is. Okay, check it out. Nothing reveals more about a civilization than the god and goddesses it worships. For thousands of years, human has fashioned stories about divine beings to explain their most mysterious, terrifying, and exalted experience. Today, the names of many of these deities have fallen into obscurity. The dictionary and ancient deities bring the gods and goddesses back to light. Oh, yeah, read it for yourself. Here, in one superly written volume, is every known divine being throughout the record history, from Athenia to Brahma to the evil demon king. Oh man, yeah, y'all know this one. I won't say it. Of the African fan people and the Babylonian dreams messenger. I won't say those either. With over 1,000 centuries, entries. Yeah, you heard that? Yeah, y'all caught that? 1,000 centuries and entries. Yeah. I said entries. Yeah. Okay. Where was that? Here we go. Hold on. I lost my step messing with y'all for a second there. But yeah, but this book here. Oh yeah, here we go. The Dictionary of the Ancient Deities is the most comprehensive reference of its kind, covering only gods and goddesses, but also spirits, places, festivals, sacred texts and objects, heroes, monsters, demigods, and a plethora of fantastic mythical beasts that have populated the human imagination from time immemorial. The encyclopedia also includes many deities often missing from the standard collection, notably from Inuit, Native, American, and African cultures, alphabetically arranged. Entries providing the names of each deity with alternate spellings following the tribes and cultures of worshiping deities. Most importantly, the entries, whether brief description or long essay, often lucid and engaging explanations of the origins of functions of the gods and goddesses, with a comprehensive index of the extensive biblical and dictionary of ancient deities and best choice of any intrigued by the rich pantheon of divine beings that have mirrored the human psyche and shaped our earliest civilizations. A valued resource for quick references for the beginning research topic. Anyway, this book here is phenomenal. It's astronomical. It's phenomenal because the thing is, if you think about ancient deities and everything like that, it's a possibility that it's not a possibility that these just came up out of our own brains when you got people in two different hemispheres experiencing the same type of things at the same time, just like redundancy, okay? So, does that mean we have a doppelganger? Not necessarily, but we do have each other, our likenesses, our willnesses to want to understand more about who we actually are. And we're able to do these things because there are records, an immense amount of records. If you just have to have the will, the know how, and you can't be a little scared ass person, man. This human history is left here for us. Us. We can't say no one else because all we got is us as a human lexicon of people, a human experience, who we shall elevate ourselves to be. The Pope is gone. Who are they going to pick next? Doesn't matter. Okay? But do you have, or is there hope? I talked to you in the beginning about solar flares and how that may affect a lot of beings. Who may be immune, who may not. It's coming soon. I'm just letting you know. Like, that's what's going to happen. So if you think that solar flare it's not going to affect us, it's not going to affect you, how your mind thinking, if you're going to even, survive. This is the Will Is Podcast. Okay. That's all I got for you tonight, but I got another one for you tomorrow. We probably will be back. I'm pretty sure we'll be back again this week with AE if the universe and answers say the same. So, check this out, man. Y'all be good. Y'all stay learning. Y'all stay let's keep trying to put this thing together a positive way because it's enough reasons to be negative. But being positive, it feels better. It works. It also cultivates humility. We may not have all the time in the world, but at least you got the time to make up your mind and get it right. Check it out. I want y'all to say this with me because this show is over. We're going to cook to the next one for sure. Hope y'all like the shirt. But anyway, I had to wear some respect for the world to see because of the title, The Pope and Hope Show. This is the Pope and Hope Show. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I was able to give you and provide to you some wonderful, intricate information for yourself, your internal. So hopefully this outside information that I'm giving to you gets to your internal. You understand? Say it with me. Oh yeah. The will is yours. That's right. Hey y'all, check me out tomorrow. We're gonna follow up on some things.